she said!
Let them eat cake.
Who took the bomb?
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. It's the start of a new month, and we need to pip for our 20 chatters already. Looks like we got a handful in the chats already for Razier, first of the month. Great morning in Boise. Let's see Carlito and Tiffany off YouTube. Good morning, y'all. Pony Boy, good morning. Pray the Rosary Daily, good morning. Glad you guys made it. Carlites, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What a great Monday morning. Do you feel like the weekend just kind of flew by?
Yeah.
I feel like that every weekend. I feel like we're going on 6 months of just one continuous week. It's been awesome. All right, Doug Wyatt, good to see you. Bright and early in the chats. So fun. Coming from the East Coast, Maryland area. All right, I know why you guys join in bright and early on Monday mornings. You're here for the simultaneous sip. And all you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice, a stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind, and fill it with your favorite liquid. I like cold coffee at this point this morning. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. And it starts right now.
And I got to be honest, Sean, that first clip you played about Donald Trump when he says, I'm going to do the opposite with TDS. This man knows how to set traps for Democrats to walk in. And my God, I wish he would do this one. He needs to come out tomorrow and say, I'm a female. He needs to say, I'm the first female president. And the TDS lunatics are going to say, you can't be a female. And Donald Trump's going to say, yes, I can. You told me I can change my gender. And they're going to expose the absurdity of their transgender ideology because their TDS is so strong that their reflex is going to say, oppose, oppose, oppose.
That's a great thing to do. He should totally do that. He should try to go on the record as the first female president. Just be done with it. Just be done with it. Marizo says, good morning from my warm bed. Oh, I'm glad you're sleeping in. Okay, so up in Maine, we've got this really interesting race between Susan Collins, who's a total rhino, right? Like Susan Collins, you can't count on her vote for hardly anything. I think if I remember right, she voted for Justice Kavanaugh, but it was only after a very vicious letter or constituent accosted her, and she thought, this just can't be the way the Senate operates. We should be able to make our decisions in a vacuum without outside pressure. So she ended up voting for Justice Kavanaugh, not because he was a better candidate, but because she didn't want to cave to the protesters, which, I mean, I guess we got Kavanaugh in, whatever, right? But she's not been exactly a stalwart supporter of MAGA and Donald Trump. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, she might even be one of those really waffly pro-choice Republicans coming from Maine.
Oh boy.
Right. So now here's the problem with Maine. There's no one else running against her other than the Democrat candidate. So we're past, I don't know if we're past the primary, but we're past the point where you're going to get a quality Republican candidate running against her. I mean, who are you going to get up in Maine?
What's Carlson? The population of Maine anyways?
It's not big.
Right.
It's not big. And I'm sure there's someone better in the state, but there's no one better that's running. Okay.
Right.
So she's running up against this guy named Plattner. Now, I think his name is Graham Plattner. Yep. Graham Plattner. Now, his background, if I'm not mistaken, and again, you know, I don't follow the Democrats super closely, but if I'm not mistaken, he's former military.
Okay.
He's got a lot of videos of him, you know, doing in a drunken bar scenes with his shirt off. He's got a nice big Nazi tattoo on his chest. So unlike Donald Trump, who just said there were fine people on both sides, but the neo-Nazis need to be condemned totally, this guy actually has a neo-Nazi tattoo on his chest. Now, having been someone who's met a few people with Nazi tattoos in prison, these aren't the most uncommon things out there. But nonetheless, as a Democrat, he has that. So you'd think, based on the fact that Democrats are completely opposed to white supremacy, that would be a disqualifier. Do you think it's a disqualifier for the Democrats when it's their candidate with a Nazi tattoo?
No.
Not even a bit.
I mean, as long as you got some ink, it doesn't matter what it's. What it is.
Yeah. Now, this guy has also said a whole lot of incendiary racial things online, and all of those posts have been made public, and he's taken a lot of heat for it. He's taken a lot of heat for the tattoo, and he's taken a lot of heat for his incendiary racial Nazi-like posts online. In fact, so bad that, see, what's his name here? Marie Hassan, who is very anti-Semitic, generally speaking, okay, had an interview with him, and he's like, hey, so this is the worst, right? Like the stuff that's come out, it's as bad as it gets, right? Right?
Is there other stuff out there that's going to come out now between now and November? Is there another chat forum we don't know about? Another tattoo we haven't seen?
No. Everybody's seen my tattoos now, and everybody's read all my internet comments. And we released everything.
Okay.
We put it all in October.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. And look, the Republican Party is absolutely going to lie. At some point that's coming. They, said they swift voted John Kerry. They said Barack.
Is there other stuff?
Except John Kerry really wasn't in Vietnam.
Wasn't an American. When it comes to the Republican Party, God only knows what they're going to come up with that isn't true. They just ran an AI generated.
They did, yes. Ridiculous.
Yeah. So they're the dirty tricks. That's all going to happen.
Okay, so everything that happens is just a dirty trick at this point. Deplorable D says, good morning, Patriots. So glad to have you here this morning.
I kind of liked his banner on the wall. Did you read that?
What did it say? I missed it.
End Illuminati warfare or welfare. Like, yes.
I love these guys so much. So Mark Thiessen on Fox News is like Susan Collins for how rhino she is. Okay, she's so rhino that no MAGA is going to get out of bed to vote for her. Okay? However, they might get out of bed to vote against this Graham Plattner. And so you couldn't have picked a better opponent for Susan Collins than Graham Plattner, right? If you've got to motivate MAGA to get out of bed, you weren't going to get it with Susan, okay? But with Graham, you're going to get them motivated to vote against this.
Though I do know that Susan Collins tends to lose polls and win elections.
Okay.
So I don't think that this is dangerous for her. But think about this. His wife is disappointed, not in her husband sexting women, but she's disappointed in us for caring about it, right? And she's disappointed in people for exposing it for the voters to see. That's what she's disappointed in. I mean, that tells you a lot. I think it's great news for Susan Collins in that she couldn't have picked a better opponent. A guy, a sexual deviant, cheating sleazeball with a Nazi tattoo is probably who you want to run against. But I think you're right, Tommy, which is that things that used to be obviously disqualifying are no longer obviously disqualifying. You just look at Jay Jones in Virginia running for attorney general, chief law enforcement officer, who was threatening his fellow legislators in the legislature, saying he wanted one woman's children to die in their mother's arms. And he won, not just won, he won decisively 53-47, and the winning margin came from suburban women. I mean, if that is not, if Jay Jones can win an election in Virginia with suburban women after what he did, then, I guess Plattner can do or say anything or tattoo anything he wants on his body and be fine.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Now, obviously, I've long opined that part of the reason why these candidates that would otherwise be disqualified right from the offset even get a chance at running is because the system, the voting structure itself, the system of voting itself is so corrupted that there are these loose votes out there, loose ballots. These are your dead people that are still registered, people that have moved out, illegal immigrants that have registered, right? Homeless people that have registered. This universe of loose ballots allow for both ballot manipulation and ballot harvesting and machine fraud. It opens the door to both of those things. So how someone like Graham gets a foothold, I mean, do you really believe 50% plus one of the electorate is so TDS infected that they would vote for the guy with the neo-Nazi tattoos, the sex chatting background, and the racial texting background? You're over there. You can't see Ron. He's not on camera, but Ron's over there like, no, you wouldn't think that would be a real possibility, right? Exactly. The types of candidates that the Democrats have run the last 4 or 5 election cycles, when you go through the whole slate of them across the country, you find some absolute cuckoos out there. I don't know that you see the same thing on the Republican side. I mean, you do see occasionally one that slips through the cracks, like the lieutenant governor from South Carolina or North Carolina, can't remember, but he was, a black man. He was in office. And then when he was running for governor in the primary, a whole bunch of his old chat room messages came out and kind of derailed his campaign. So these chat room messages came from a chat plat called KIK, Kick. Okay. And it's known for being not the best place. Okay. It's just known for being not the best place. And the messages that came out from this forum were pretty sketchy. Okay. Like clearly sketchy. He got asked, this is he and his wife. He got asked about this, and his attitude is just like, well, we do what we want to do.
Graham, we heard Amy's video last night about this situation, the story in the Times and the Journal. What would your statement be at this point?
It's no surprise to me that the establishment media outlets are just going to run gossip instead of wanting to talk about the things that actually matter in this race, which are the material realities that the Mainers are working with. These people are going to try to make this race about anything but what it's supposed to be about, which is policy. They never want to talk about policy. Amy and I have a very loving and very happy marriage. They would very much like to try to rip that apart. They're going to come after us in every awful way that they possibly can. And we're just going to keep talking about the fact that the hospitals are closing, the fact that childcare facilities are closing, the fact that teachers and nurses aren't paid enough, and the fact that everybody down here continues to work harder and longer and get less. But of course, the powers that be do not want us to talk about that. And so they're going to just do gossip instead.
But the stories are true, right? About the texts.
No, this is the amazing part. The Wall Street Journal and the New York Times ran stories without any evidence besides the gossip from a former staffer. I'm sorry. That's frankly journalistic malpractice. We pushed back on it. They won it. They did it anyways. So
confirming that the messages did not exist.
What's that?
The messages, they did not.
I'm confirming that what Genevieve McDonald said in the New York Times is not true.
So you never met with her about uncomfortable, for lack of a better word, sexting messages as the campaign was going?
We talked about things in Amy and I's marriage that we've gone through over the years. We talked about that because that's our marriage, and we discussed it with the campaign. What Genevieve McDonald claims isn't true.
Thank you, folks.
So it's the nuance, picking apart the nuance.
Okay.
Right. So here's the thing. Even CNN is forced to admit this guy's campaign has kind of totally started to derail. Now, this is a Republican consultant talking on CNN, but nonetheless, even CNN is admitting this guy's lying to people.
I think it's a simple question. This guy is very controversial, and it's a question about judgment and character. Just a week ago, Jessica, our Manu Raju, the New York Times, asked Mr. Plattner directly, is there anything else that we should expect? Anything else that the voters of Maine should expect? And he frankly said, no, this is it. This is all behind me. I'm focused on winning. I'm focused on my campaign message. I'm focused on representing the Democratic voters of the state of Maine. And here we are a week later, he lied. And so that the next question becomes, what else will come out of this? There are 12 ladies. Will any of those ladies decide to give interviews? I feel sorry for his wife. She did not ask for this. It is unfortunate and it is unfair to her. I will acknowledge that. But he is running for U.S. Senate. Susan Collins is the type of Republican that Democrats say they want. She's independent minded. She doesn't always vote with the party. As you all know, we've talked about this on our network. She's tried. She is true versus someone who continuously week after week says there isn't anything else. And sure enough, there's another rabbit hole we find ourselves debating about. I don't think you can trust Graham Plattner. And I think most of the voters of Maine will find that out over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yeah, it's pretty rough for Graham Plattner. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is there's this, remember we talk about plausible believability, right? There's this plausible believability element. Deplorable D says teachers are paid plenty considering what they are teaching. She's referring to what Graham Plattner said, which we're going to talk about socialism and teachers getting paid and taxing the rich here. Just
well, I did take note of that. Was like teachers and nurses aren't getting paid enough. It's like, okay, there you go, pay to play. It's you're buying votes right there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're buying your constituency. Yeah. So here's the thing. I having been through a trial where I believe that they put up fake information in my trial. They put up a vanity name from X or from Twitter at the time. It was @peasantpod_. Mm-hmm. Now, I've never used an underscore in any vanity name or any email ever that I can ever remember. I've just never used one. It's just It's
Taylor's
not
just
my-
anti-underscore.
Anti-underscore. They just haven't used underscores, okay? And all of the stuff that they were presenting in trial, they got from my social media subpoenas. So they subpoenaed Twitter, Facebook, Parler, and wherever else, and they provided all the bulk metadata back to the DOJ. Sure. And so in the trial, how did you acquire this information? We got it from the subpoena return. Right. We got it from going through his phone, right? There was a source of where this information came. So they weren't just flashing up a tweet on the screen. How did you get that tweet? How did you confirm that he liked it or that he wrote it? That kind of thing. Well, there was a couple of tweets that came from an account that the FBI agent got from the quote Wayback Machine.
And they attributed it to you.
Yes, which means they didn't get it from a subpoena return. Okay. They didn't get it from my cell phone data. Okay. They didn't get it from any online iCloud research that they did. They got
well, then where did they get it? Machine. Where'd they get it?
Just open source Wayback Machine.
Okay.
They got this tweet, and I can't remember exactly which posts they put up, but they were damning posts. Like, did I write that? I'm looking at them. I'm like, I could have written that. Like, it's not like outside the realm of believability. But I objected. I was like, I don't think that that's my account. But I wasn't in a position, like at that point, you're supposed to object during discovery. I didn't catch it during discovery. I get these links to files with millions of pages in them. How am I supposed to find, on page 987, the Wayback Machine returns? Okay. But what it did teach me going through that experience, one of the lingering things I have is I have PTSD when it comes to my digital exhaust. Right. All the different accounts you have. If you have an iPhone, go through your passwords, like you go through your passwords and look at all the hacks. Because every time one of those sites that you have a password on gets hacked or has a data breach, somehow it links back into iPhone and it will tell you, hey, this website has had a data breach. And, if you're like me, you possibly in the beginning when, you thought your passwords were secure, you reused passwords. I don't do that anymore. Right? But you can go and you can look that like all of your data has been compromised. Well, all of that data, when you get these big database hacks or in these email servers or these, companies that do customer information gathering, a lot of that information gets put on these databases online. They're not dark web. They just become open source intelligence. Private investigators, commercial companies, anybody can go in there and they can purchase this data or they can purchase a subscription to the data. And then what starts to happen is they can find things about you. So I'm going to play this little clip here from Tucker Carlson's podcast. This is from a little while ago. And they had a dark web hacker. He had a dark web hacker on his show. And in 20 minutes, he grabbed Tucker Carlson's digital life, grabbed his actual signature. Apparently, Tucker Carlson's not his real name. It's not his legal name for legal documents. Grabbed his actual signature, found out about vehicles that he had, right? All in a matter of 20 minutes. And this is something that I became very conscientious of. It's the government's ability to create digital exhaust for you that's not actually yours. And you see this process peak up when you see, for example, Cheryl Atkins' husband, who had child pornography planted on his computer, right? What kind of digital exhaust are they trying to create? What kind of online avatar are they trying to create by infusing your computer systems and your passwords and your profiles? And, if you've got some email that you've used that's linked to another email, that's linked to another email, and then they find out your passwords and they can get in and then they can create some chat account and then they can set some bot to that chat account. And next thing you know, you have a whole chat profile that isn't really yours.
Say that I keep my assets in gold coins buried in a place that, only my children can identify. So, well, I'm totally safe. You can't drain my bank account.
Well, let me show you something. You might not be able to drain your bank account, but here is your signature from your warranty deed. So how do you have that?
That is my actual signature.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Which is not my name. So I don't know how you would have that.
Oh, I pulled it from public record.
It is crazy.
Yep. So if I use your social, I have your general location. I know you use a PO box to buy everything. I found behind the PO box. I saw your motorcycle transaction that you made. I have the old plate and the new plate with the Harley. I found as much as I could in the 20 minutes.
Found my Harley.
Yeah. So
Not something I talk about. That's so funny. Wow. Okay.
But my point here is
the new 6 speeds are amazing. Can I just say that? My
I can
old car
imagine.
had 4 speeds.
I love
and
motorcycles.
I do too. Yeah, I secretly do. Very secretly.
So the National Public Data breach was ridiculous, to be honest with you. It was 2.8 billion records about a year and a half ago, roughly. And a Florida sheriff ran a data broker website, which had, just you could look up somebody's name, similar to White Pages. But for whatever reason, this Florida sheriff got access to all of this data and was using it to, I'm assuming sell data, make money on it. Well, he decided to reuse credentials for.
So listen to this. A Florida sheriff was using all of the government available search data. He was passing it through to a website that he owned and was selling subscriptions to.
Good scam.
And then he double uses credentials.
A demo project or old project on his main production system, which allowed 2.8 billion records to be exposed with, we know there's about 300 million Americans. So if there's 2.8 billion records in this database, there's a good chance that you're in it with your social security number. And you're in there about, I think, 15 times if you look at that document with everywhere you've ever lived, including anyone associated, et cetera. And
this is all publicly available now?
It's publicly available. And what we did was, because since like I said, I could, maybe you have all your assets in gold, let's say. Like, I have the ability to call your electric company and pretend that I'm you. And what do I not have about you to confirm that I'm you? Or if I want to open up a credit card, or if I want to buy a Harley, there's not much that's stopping me.
So when I was in prison with a guy who was there for identity theft. Mm-hmm. Is the sound weird? Did you make any adjustments to the sound?
The sound is a little weird.
Why is it weird like that? I feel like I have to get really close to the microphone. Usually I'm like trying to stay away from it. Touch something.
Try that.
Oh, that's a little hotter. Okay. So when I was in prison with a guy that was there, that he wasn't there this time for identity theft, but his first time through the prison system, he was there for identity theft. And what he would do is he would just, pretty standard, he'd steal credit cards. Okay, he'd steal credit cards, or he would go online and he would purchase people's information and he would apply for credit cards. Now, he was pretty smart about this. When he would steal people's credit cards and or apply for them, this was a long-running game that he played over the course of years, okay? He would get your credit information and he would call up and he would get, is it Credit Lock? Is that what the program's called?
I don't know.
It's you hear like Glenn Beck advertisement. It's
sure.
Credit Lock or ID Lock or LifeLock. That's what it is.
LifeLock, yeah.
So he'd open up a LifeLock account for you. So this allowed him to monitor your credit. Okay? So he would get all these credit cards, max them out. And then when he was totally maxed out, and he never made any payments, he'd max these out pretty quick. Then he would call up LifeLock and he would lock your credit and tell you that these credit cards had been stolen and it was fraudulent. And then he'd burn that email account and burn whatever he created. But he'd create an entire profile, email account, burner cell phone number. He'd use your social, all stuff he got off the web to create credit. Okay. And he ended up creating in about 2 years, about $250,000 worth of credit that he was able to abscond with from other people. And he didn't get caught until some old lady wanted to see it through to the end and ended up filing a police report. And then they ended up subpoenaing the phone calls between him and LifeLock. And that's when they proved it wasn't her. When the phone call came back and he's like, "Hi, this is Susan something." And they're like, it's not her voice, right? That's what finally got them to continue through the prosecution of her. Are you still playing around with the sound there?
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
Yeah. We just can't play with anything. Anytime we want to adjust anything, we touch it and it changes all the sound. Anyways, that is something that that is horrible, Ron.
I know.
How was it before?
There.
Is that better?
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the chats, if the sound is driving you crazy, just let us know. Then we'll keep playing with it. Markin, good morning. Glad you made it. So anyways, that is something that I'm constantly conscientious of with these politicians. So even with Graham Plattner, you have to there's this plausible believability that this could just be a hit job, right? And you have to be conscientious of that all the time. And that's one of the reasons why these stories come up, and we kind of have to just see how the reaction is. If Graham is just like, it didn't happen. It's no big deal. It's AI. And he just kind of moves forward with his life. You kind of have to sit there and go, how is that not on the table of possibilities? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How is that not on the table of possibilities? We're going to see that more and more. I think as campaigns get tighter and tighter, and both parties run ridiculous candidates, they're going to try to make the other candidate look more ridiculous with some other over-the-top scandal. And we, the people, have just no way to verify if this stuff is legitimate or not. Ron, what do we got? Rumble Wallet?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Do it. All right. We hear a lot about crypto, but here's the part most people miss. Crypto was created so you could actually own your own money. After the 2008 financial crisis, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So instead of banks holding your money, delaying transfers, or limiting access, you're in control. And if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you felt that problem. Now, fast forward to today, everyone's heard of crypto, but getting started still feels complicated. That's exactly why I use Rumble Wallet. It takes all that complexity and makes it simple. Choose what you want: Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or even digital gold backed by real gold. No complicated setups. It connects you with MoonPay, so you can use your credit card, debit card, or bank. Be set up and running in minutes. Once you're set up, you can even support your favorite Rumble creators like me directly. So do it now. Scan the QR code, click the link in the description, and download Rumble Wallet. From there, you can set up your wallet, tap buy, and you're in the game. In just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Pew.
This is great. All right. One of the other things Graham Plattner said in his interview was that they don't want to debate the issues. They don't want to debate the issues.
The policies.
Now, the interesting thing about that is, as conservatives, we're like, that's all we want to debate is the issues. You're the one who made this into a dirty mudslinging campaign, right? We want to debate the issues. We think our ideas can win. But of course, the Plattners of the world are always going to be like, no, you don't. No, we do. Here's an example of Bernie Sanders, who is responding to the Jeff Bezos interview that was on CNBC. And this is the one where Jeff Bezos talked about, I'm not that rich. Billionaires don't become billionaires overnight. Go sell some chicken. You'll see everybody loves your chicken and you can become a billionaire. You're selling a lot of chicken, right? Like there's you don't just become a billionaire because you're smart. You become a billionaire because you do things. Things are happening under your businesses or whatever the case is. Well, Bernie Sanders, and he talked about in that interview as well, that if you tax the rich, they're just going to leave. And then they're going to take their businesses with you. And now your tax base shrinks. Well, Bernie Sanders has some responses to that, Ron. Let's talk about the issues.
I promise you, Jeff, that you're dead wrong. I pay billions of dollars in taxes. And it's a perfect, again, if people want me to pay more billions, then let's have that debate. But don't pretend, that that's going to solve the problem. You could double the taxes I pay, and it's not going to help that teacher in Queens. I promise. No, I promise you, Jeff, that you're dead wrong. Of course it will help that teacher in Queens. And, it's interesting. As you may know, in California now, there's an effort to have a billionaire's tax. Yes. And Bezos says, let's have that debate, right? Mm-hmm. You know what they're doing in California? You know what thare doing in New York when Mamdani wants to raise taxes on the rich? You know what they do in response to the wealth tax that I have introduced here in Washington? They're not having that debate as to whether or not billionaires should pay their fair share, as opposed to people losing their health care or children going hungry. What they are saying is, you raise my taxes in California. You know what I'm doing? What am I doing? I'm leaving. I'm leaving the state. Yeah. And I'm going to shut down my company and you're going to be unemployed. That's the debate. That's not a debate. That is my power over you. Mm-hmm. That is extortion. That is blackmail. Heads I win, tails you lose. You can't beat me. So Bezos says, let's have that debate. Exactly right. Let's have that debate. Tell me, Mr. Bezos, why you think you are worth many, many hundreds of billions of dollars while you pay your workers at Amazon starvation wages. Tell me why you think you have the right to automate factories all over America and the world and throw millions of people out of work. What gives you unilaterally that right? Let's have that debate, Mr. Bezos.
All right, so let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's have the debate. So rich guy says, hey, you keep wanting to raise my taxes to fix all these social problems. The problem is I know how much I'm paying in taxes. And as a business owner, I know how far that money can go, right? I know what I can do with that money. Yeah. And I'm giving it to you, Mr. Government, to deal with homelessness, to deal with potholes, to deal with human excrement on the sidewalks, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
When said results don't happen and said check has been cut, what would that lead the rich man to assume?
They wasted the money.
The money's being wasted.
Yeah.
It's not going where they say it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right. So outside of a actual tax conversation where we realize none of your tax money goes to fill in potholes or social services, it all simply just goes to pay for the interest on the debt, which means all these things that they're paying for retroactively have already been prepaid. That's one of the other dirty little secrets about the tax system. So when we have to raise the tax rate on the rich, that's because we can't make our minimum payment on the credit card anymore. Right? So we've got to raise the tax rate on the rich, and the rich guy's going, listen, you already had the money because I'm only paying the interest.
Right.
So you've already had the money and you haven't fixed homelessness. It's gotten worse. You haven't fixed XYZ problem. Healthcare is more expensive. All these things are more expensive. So there's one thing, right? So the rich man would look and he would go, you're not efficiently spending the money.
Well, and also he's like, I don't think I want to give you more money because the money that you have spent was spent inefficiently. I'm sorry, my brain.
Yeah, it's spent inefficiently. It's not effective. It's not getting anything done. All right. Now, what if you're a poor person and you're like, hey, these services aren't working for me, right? Like there's still a homeless encampment outside my house. My healthcare is still super expensive. I still have to drive through a whole bunch of potholes every day to get to work. Right. So you've got all the same problems. So.
Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. I'm only paying the interest. If I pay the interest, you're going to use that new position to ask for more taxes, expand the program instead of just pay down the debt like you should as a responsible, party of this.
So you've got states like Washington where former Governor Gregoire, when she had a $33 billion budget, she was like, we're running out of money. Now we have an $80 billion budget and they're running out of money. So clearly we don't have a budget problem because we've expanded the budget $50 billion in the last 10 years. And yet we still can't fill in the same potholes. We still can't clean up the same homeless encampments. In fact, they've gotten bigger. We still can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think when you're just asking me to constantly pay and you're never actually performing, right? Government who's supposed to perform the cleaning up of the streets or the law and order or whatever it is, at some point, there's no bargain there anymore, right? So there's no bargain. What if you're a poor person? You can continue to blame the rich. Yeah. And then, of course, when the rich leave and they take your jobs, that's an easy scapegoat. But who's the real problem here in both situations?
The government.
The government. The government, right? We talked about this on Saturday in our episode with Gary. If you go ask people, like 9 out of 10 people will tell you, yeah, government's not the best way to get this stuff done. The socialist, however, feels like they're the only legitimate way to get it done. The conservative can think of a dozen other ways to get it done, right? But usually isn't compelling as to why we shouldn't use government, because government should be transparent. Government should be able to allocate this money appropriately. I mean, all those government employees get paid. What incentive do they have to steal from this extra money that's being spent? Well, Spencer Pratt was on with Bill Maher, and he talked about this exact problem. How rich people, you can keep taxing them, but at the end of the day, if the results don't happen, neither the people or the rich are going to be happy.
I feel like people are all hyped on socialism because they're like, everything's so expensive. America's failed. Give me money. But what they're forgetting is all the people that these socialists are saying they're taking the money and giving, they're going to leave. And then they're not going to have any money to take from these people to give to you. I keep telling people the way we get you money is stopping the socialism, letting the successful rich people build businesses, build restaurants, put money into your pocket because there's more jobs, there's more opportunity. That's how we actually get you more money. To lie to you and tell you, we're going to tax these rich people. We already tax so much in LA, in California. I can't even comprehend taxing more. What's happening is we tax these people and then other rich people, the champagne socialists, scammers, steal that money because they're all connected to the people taxing it. And then the people that should see the money, the communities, after the Boys and Girls Clubs, the parks, the actual infrastructure doesn't see that money because different rich people stole the money that was being taxed from the rich people. So I actually feel like Robin Hood because I'm coming in and I'm going to say, where's all this money? We're done with everyone stealing the tax money. We're going to actually put it to the people that have turned to socialism because they say America doesn't work. It doesn't work if we let people steal all the tax money.
Exactly. I think where socialism really got a foothold in the Democrat Party, aside from going back to the more nefarious, Marxists and stuff like that, the blue dog Democrats, these are your union Democrats, right? They understand the value of their labor, and they recognize that through collective bargaining, they can get more for their labor than if they're just individuals out there that can be taken advantage of by the big corporation. It's natural. Unions have a huge place in the American workforce because the more you specialize, the more you need to unionize, right? When you have a special niche, like if you're some factory worker making chain link, your skills aren't necessarily going to move over into coding very quickly. Right? So the more you specialize, the more you need to unionize. And the unions have that we the people attitude, right? Because you're in it for your brothers, your fellow labor brethren. But unfortunately, because there's that easy jump from unions to collectivism, right? Because they kind of have a similar feel to it. A lot of Democrats have been sucked into that pro-socialist mentality when really they just want a right to work. They want a right to bargain their labor. Well, if the factory just closes down, the union can't keep them open.
Right. Who are they bargaining with? Exactly.
The whole point of the union was you couldn't leave. You couldn't go somewhere that was cheap enough. If you had a factory in Ohio, by the time you relocated to Kentucky, you may as well pay your laborers that extra $1 an hour that they want and save yourself the $100 million to move your factory.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But when you calculate things, and this is why on policy, we have to have this debate. And as conservatives, we can win this debate. We don't have to take the old Republican line. The free trade line, which did away with, a lot of our American factories, that was the Republican line. Free trade is better. All right. Well, listen, in the marketplace of ideas, if the world isn't operating under free labor agreements, you don't really have free trade. Right. So we became completely pacified with this idea that if goods and services were cheap, it didn't matter where they were made. And then that's what leads to a lot of people whose, frankly, IQ is enough to work in a factory, but it's not enough to go be a coder. You know what I'm saying? They get left out. They get left out in the cold, which is why we've had this huge brain drain. Scott Besson addressed this and how the Trump administration is addressing this exact problem. Again, the socialists, they don't want to actually talk about the issues because the problem is always going to point back to who? The government. Yep, sure, you can steal from the rich. You've been doing that for 30 years, but it's not making it down to the poor. It's rich people stealing from the other rich people. Does that make sense? And so what happens is we all get left out in the cold. The Trump administration is doing a lot to change this.
The truth is that for too long, America had been asleep. We mistook comfort for strength. We substituted efficiency for resilience and consumption as a measure of prosperity. We told ourselves that so long as goods were cheaper overseas, it did not matter whether factories went dark in Michigan, Ohio, or Pennsylvania. We assumed that supply chains would always function smoothly and adversaries would always behave responsibly, and the invisible hand would correct vulnerabilities that too few in public life had the courage to confront. And while we reassured ourselves with those assumptions, risk accumulated all around us. Somewhere along the way, we lost sight of a foundational principle that previous generations understood instinctively. Economic security is national security. For a nation that cannot manufacture, mine, ship, or refine its needs gradually, cedes its strength and sovereignty to others. That is a dangerous dependency for any country. It is an unacceptable one for the United States of America. The truth is
that socialist attitude that was brought about by the Marxists and specifically the Trotskyites. He was very international socialism. Communism is not going to work till the whole world's on it, right? They were robbing from the rich, the United States, to give to the poor. South Africa, Zimbabwe, Ghana, whatever, you name the third world country. So that was happening on the big scale. And then on a small scale, because that attitude of we have to take from the rich and give to the poor, it was easy to suck in the blue dog Democrats into that mentality for a generation. But that generation has now seen their factories close. They've now seen their neighborhoods become dilapidated. I mean, Detroit is a shell of what it once was. It used to be a powerhouse city in the nation. Now it's a forgotten city. Right.
Wasn't it ranked like the #1 city in the world at one point?
At one point, yeah. I mean, it was a huge powerhouse.
You would never guess that today.
The blue dog Democrats are no longer like, if you're in Detroit and you're going, hey, we should tax the rich people. It's like, which rich people are left? I mean, how much are you going to really stick the Fords for? I mean, you're down to a couple corporations, and at some point they'll leave too. They're not even building stuff in Detroit anymore. They just have their headquarters there at this point. Right. It becomes a huge problem. But if a nation can do its own mining, can do its own logging, can do its own energy production, that's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of jobs that will help a lot, right? So if you get down to the core of these issues, you recognize what people really don't want is a handout. They want an opportunity, right? But it's without the opportunity, the handout's what you're going to take. And a lot of these socialists, they specialize in making sure that you can't have an opportunity. You can only have a handout. And that's what's happening more and more. So taxing the rich, it ain't going to work forever. Now, I've been a huge believer that if we could fix these elections, we can flush a lot of this bad policy out, right? All of a sudden, you might actually lose an election if you have a bad candidate, instead of being able to gaslight us into believing that they're a quality candidate. I noticed Graham Plattner is doing can't believe Fetterman role. Oh. You know, wear t-shirts, and sweaters, jeans.
Yeah, the everyman.
He's a worker man.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I think it's great. All right, for RNC election integrity update. This is a big deal. The RNC is now engaged in 150 election integrity lawsuits across 34 states. This year, we're on track to wage the most litigation in RNC history to secure the ballot box. Protect the vote. Now, unlike previous years, the RNC has money. They have money, $100,000 more money than the DNC. To my knowledge, that's the first time in my life that I have ever seen a gap like that. I've seen
100,000
of money. Usually the Democrats come up with more money, but the fact that they're technically in the hole right now is kind of a big deal.
I think you meant more than 100,000.
What do you mean 100,000?
You said that's how much money they got.
The DNC?
The RNC.
They have 100 million.
I know, you said 100,000.
Oh, I said 100 million. They have hundreds of thousands.
Like, that's so much money.
Yeah, they have hundreds of thousands. You know, they got hundreds, over $130 million. I think
yeah, pow.
Big time number. Now, when it comes to the elections, there's still shenanigans. Guess what happened over the weekend? So this week is the primary in California between the three mayoral candidates in LA. And in LA,
by mail ballots were found burned inside a ballot box in Los Angeles just 2 days before the California primaries. Election officials discovered the damaged ballots, and they filed a report with the police department. They say a separate voting center was also vandalized. Investigators are looking into both incidents and are working to identify any voters who have been affected.
Okay, so a voting box was vandalized. It was caught on fire, so all the ballots inside went up. Yep. And a separate voting center was vandalized.
Yep.
Who's doing the vandalizing?
Oh, I don't know. But Taylor, I love your smile because you know that this is just grasping at straws. These guys are desperate.
That's what I guess we'll see how the story shapes out.
Right.
Does this create plausible believability for a judge to be like, okay, send out new ballots and keep counting for 4 more weeks?
No.
Or is this going to be like, what are they going to do here? Like,
yeah,
could this
I don't
be
know.
could this be some ballot stuffer that had some midnight guilt and was like, oh my gosh, all the ballots that I gathered up, that one person just got charged. I'm going to go light the box on the evidence. Or is this like a high Spencer Pratt area burnt them, or like what's going on here?
I don't know.
And then not only that, attacking another vote counting center. You know what they're going to need? Centralization, high security. Never let a good crisis go to waste. In Washington state, we have an energy problem, Ron. We have an energy problem. Now, this energy problem goes all the way back to Jay Inslee, probably before that, because nothing is ever in a vacuum. But Jay Inslee, if you remember when he ran for president of the United States, that short-lived campaign he had, What was his one platform? What was the one single plank he had on his platform?
Climate change, bro.
Climate change. Washington State is going to lead the world on climate change. We're going to fix all of it right here from our little seat in the Pacific Northwest. Okay. So he instituted all types of climate change regulation. Well, this climate change regulation mainly went after energy producers. Okay. It went after builders. We had like a whole bunch more climate regulation in our building codes. It went after a lot of different industry sectors. But more than anything, it went after gas and oil production and transportation and distribution.
Yep.
Big time. Okay.
Yeah. For people in the rest of the world, Washington, we can't build new homes with gas anymore for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Now, the crazy thing about under Jay Inslee's time as governor, which I think we got 12 years out of the guy.
Yeah.
A little bit of time. But 12 years out of the guy. We were one of the only states in the union that our carbon footprint went up. So even though he was completely focused on green energy and climate change regulation, our carbon footprint went up over that period of time. Now, other states that put no emphasis on it at all, but they just unleashed like builders and developers, guess what? They built climate neutral to begin with because it's more cost in certain elements, it's more cost efficient, right? And but because of all of the climate change stuff, like you could stack it all up and it's like this had the opposite effect of what we intended.
Yeah.
Well, now we Washingtonians are paying the price. Puget Sound Energy, PSC, which is our main energy provider in Washington State, is proposing major utility hikes, 30% on electricity and 20% on natural gas over the next 3 years.
Shocker.
The biggest driver? Compliance costs tied to our state's climate commitment. Washington Democrats.
Nothing to do with the actual product.
Nothing to do with the actual product. But now you got to pay for it. And this is what I was saying. You pay the interest on the debt. They fund these programs up front. And then by the time we realize they don't work, the minimum payments due and your taxes have to go up or your fees have to go up, right? If we had become more efficient with our climate regulations, would the cost of electricity go up or down, Ron? Down. They should go down.
Maybe our high tax on gas wouldn't go up anymore. I don't know. Maybe.
So here's the thing. My wife called Puget Sound Energy because this is who we get our energy through.
Okay.
Because our monthly bill is stupid. We're like $600-700 a month for electricity. Okay, it's ridiculous. And we're going around. I'm already going around the house turning off lights. I've become like the dad that's turning off lights everywhere. And I'm looking at the hot tub all side-eyed. I just need to unplug you. You're just warming up that water. Kids get in it once a week. You know, I'm like, I don't need the hot tub. I mean, don't need the heater.
Start getting stingy.
Oh, totally. In the wintertime, we're burning wood for heat. Turn on the furnace. It's way too much electricity to run that fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Already that guy. So my wife calls up Puget Sound Energy to try to, figure out what's going on with the bill. And Puget Sound Energy is like, oh, well, we have all these programs here. If you give us all your financial information, if you put like they want us to fill out these applications to figure out how much money we make and, and then they'll give us discounts.
They want to get all in your business.
They want to get all in your business, but then you can get a subsidy. You can get a discount because you're low income. And I'm like, well, first of all, right? I don't want to be low income. And I know any piece of paper I sign from you guys becomes a perjury trap.
Right.
There's step one. But I'm like, the second thing is, look at how progressive, I guess, of a system that is. So if you're low income, you have a high electricity rate, but then they'll subsidize it. Where's the subsidy money coming from?
I don't know.
It's either coming from the energy payers that don't qualify for subsidies that end up paying double, right, to pay for someone else's subsidy, or it's coming from tax money. Why don't we just have lower energy? I don't know. Right? Why does one person pay less because they're, quote, low income and another person pay more for the exact same commodity? We don't get a discount on gasoline, right? Like, it's not like, hey, I don't make enough money, so here's my discount card for gas. That's not how the system works. It's a commodity. It's just a joule of energy. We should all pay the same.
I think I'm going to call up PSC and start complaining about all the people getting subsidies like these John Attackuses.
You know what we should do? We should just run Bitcoin mining scrids. Have no job so we can qualify for all the subsidies. Maybe we can run it off our neighbor's house too. Why not? God, such a freaking mess. And that's the thing. These cities and states that are run by the socialists, it's this over and over and over and over again. And every now and then something big happens where the city has to clean up. So, for example, Washington State this summer is going to host the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have a whole bunch of games and practices and sports teams. Apparently, we're supposed to be full of Europeans this summer, just walking all over the place.
Oh, boy. What could happen?
A bunch of weirdo soccer fans. So we're going to have a bunch of weirdo soccer fans rolling around. And Ari Hoffman had on, I don't remember this guy's name. Ari Hoffman had on, President Kent Lukes from the Seattle Police Officers Guild talking about cleaning up Seattle for the World Cup.
What would you say if somebody says, is Seattle ready for the World Cup?
Well, I agree with your distinction of, the immediate area around the stadium, right? I think that's going to be very well covered, mutual aid, the feds, everything else. It is kind of the surrounding areas, right? It's really what Seattle has become over, let's just say, the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
Right, kind of this unfortunate decay. I think this is the culmination of being lax on crime and consequences, right? So I'd say the surrounding areas, that's kind of the troubled area. That's my concern, is the open air drug markets, right? All the storefronts being closed, things like that. So in that sense, it's hard to see a World Cup ready city, right? That's inviting, where there's other things going on in other areas that you're going to want to go and see. I think I'm concerned people might be a bit surprised.
Yeah. What would you say if somebody says
people are going to be surprised for Seattle? When I first moved up here and my family would come visit us, we would always go down to Pike's Market. We'd go to see the downtown, just right off the ferry. We'd go walk the boardwalk there. Yeah. We stopped doing that. Because you couldn't walk between the ferry and Pike's Market without being accosted by homeless people. It got to be kind of sketchy to be walking down there with little kids. I got 6 kids, got like one in each hand. My wife's got one in each hand. We still got 2 loose.
There used to be a day when you knew most of the homeless dudes. They had names and they had spots where they were, and they were like fixtures, that the tourists would even go visit. And then it just turned into deadbeats everywhere. It's sketchy. And if you walk further up into downtown Seattle through Pioneer Square, the urine smell is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I stopped. We started heading west, take you out to the Hoh Rainforest, take you out to Port Angeles. We don't want to go back to Seattle. Yeah. Like that was 7, 8, 9 years ago that happened. And the city's just deteriorated ever since. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when I was doing auctions in the city, this was during the Occupy Wall Street protests. Mm-hmm. And there were kind of 2 big scandals happening in Seattle at the same time. One was the Occupy Wall Street protests, which would come and bug us at the auctions, and they kind of just were everywhere. And there was just no pushback. Like the city just had a total hands-off policy with these Occupy Wall Street protesters. Well, the Occupy Wall Street protesters gathered up a lot of homeless people to create strength in numbers. It was very clearly happening. You had the organizers who were there for an ideological cause, and they surrounded themselves with riffraff. To create, I don't know, the appearance of support or whatever it was. Well, simultaneous with that, the riffraff that they were surrounding themselves with were going into the public library in Seattle, and they were looking at pornography in the public library. Do you remember this? Yeah.
It was kind of like this big scandal. Like parents were like, I can't take my kids to the library because, Mr. Jack Be Nimble over there has got his pants down around his ankles, and he's watching, very bad things on the screen that my kids can see. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. To my knowledge, Ron, they never resolved that.
Oh, no.
They got privacy screens.
Yeah.
They put up like side things and little privacy screens so you couldn't see from an angle. Yeah. They never actually fixed the problem.
It's my understanding that some of this actually happened here locally, too, and people just don't know.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
I didn't know that, but not good. So, I just deleted that one. Darn it.
Libraries just aren't, as trafficked as they used to be when I was a kid, I think. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyways, I remember this current iteration of Seattle's downslide to me started then, right? You could just tell it was just the lack of law and order. The car garages got filled with urine, couldn't hardly walk in them. Mm-hmm. Pioneer Square got real sketchy. and it has never been cleaned up. It just got progressively worse and worse and worse.
It was right after that Chad's Chop happened.
Yeah, I mean, fast forward a couple of years and Chad's Chop happened, which could have never happened had they just implemented the rules they had for protests after the WTO protests.
Right.
But they suspended all that or just stopped enforcing it when the Occupy Wall Street protests came around. Again, because there's an ideological link between the city governance and those protesters, they took a hands-off approach and it just metastasized. They curated the homeless population. Like they brought them in together and organized them in encampments and things like that. Like it was very clear.
I think the first time we covered Chad's Chop, that was the first time I accidentally swore on the podcast.
Yeah. It was rough. Deplorable D says, we're also paying these people salaries. I'm sure they skim a percentage off the top. Yeah. When you're Seattle doesn't have a budget problem. They have a too much money
local
problem.
Police to confirm
They've got $100 and something million for the homeless people, or was it 1.7 billion for homeless, which was up from the 400 million 4 years ago? And we're just missing all this money. Exactly. Okay, another thing too, and we've talked about this before, and I wonder at what point will the crisis become so bad that we adopt driverless semi-trucks and passenger vehicles? Elon Musk has already stopped making the Tesla Model 3 in favor of the robo-taxi, Tesla taxi, which is the Model 3 just without a steering at all, right? It's like incredible. Looks really interesting. But he also has the semi-truck, which has auto-driving capacity. Now, obviously the semi-truck is designed to have people in it, but we have a problem, okay? We have a lot of illegal immigrants who have been given CDL licenses. In fact, it's been said that in these states that were giving illegal immigrants CDL licenses, it actually was easier to get your CDL than to get your regular driver's license. Did you know that? Apparently, this became a tactic, okay? To get an illegal alien, his CDL came with work opportunities. Some of these illegal aliens, the first license they were issued was the CDL.
Oh my gosh.
So they didn't even have a normal's driver's license. They were actually harder to get than a CDL was, okay? So that's a really interesting tidbit there. Well, there was a bus in Virginia driving full of passengers that was being driven by an illegal immigrant.
Work zone in Stafford County, and it hit several cars. They say 3 adults and 2 children, a 13-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy, were killed. At least 44 people were taken to local hospitals, 3 of them with critical injuries. The bus was operated by E&P Travel. It was heading from New York City to Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, federal investigators are looking into New York licensing records, training documentation, and the driver's history after Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy revealed this on X. He says, per local police, the driver was a man who came from China, who became a U.S. citizen and doesn't speak English. He received his commercial driver's license from New York State in 2024. We have reached out to local police to confirm the information and have not yet heard back. Duffy, though, has been cracking down on what he says are illegally issued commercial driver's licenses. He says, at the minimum, bus drivers should be able to read road signs, work zone, and
at the minimum. Are we that hard off now that we're like, they should at least be able to read the signs? That's it? That's the only requirement to get your CDL at this point, is just read the signs? A Chinese man who became a citizen who can't speak English in 2024. Could you imagine getting on that bus and somebody being like, hey, that guy, he's only been in the United States for 2 years. and he's a driver from China. Do you know how they drive in China? Have you seen the videos? Maybe it's better now with their AI control grid, but you know, every video I see from Asia with drivers, I'm like, nope, they don't. Nope.
Every time I see one of these stories, I'm just at a loss for words. I just don't even know what to say.
I don't even know what to say. Now, this is going to reach crisis level. It's already at crisis level. We've detailed just on this show 7, 8, 9 crashes this year with the illegal drivers driving these commercial vehicles.
Yeah, that's just what we covered.
At some point, we're going to shift to where there's going to be like, hey, we want all the cars to be autonomous driving, right? At a bare minimum, the illegal alien can just sit there and pump the brakes.
Can the autonomous vehicles speak English?
Can the autonomous vehicle speak English? Has Google Translate on board? Exactly. AI is going to come for those jobs, right? Between the carriers not wanting to insure illegal immigrants or companies that have bad track records to the crackdown on these drivers, we're going to have a trucking problem in America shortly. We're also going to have another type of problem in America, and that is a shortage of just good old-fashioned manual labor. Okay, we are living in a world where AI is going to replace a lot of labor. It's going to replace a lot of intellectual labor, your white-collar jobs, your computer jobs, and things like that. It's also going to replace a lot of factory labor, where you do the same exact motion over and over and over. We've already seen robots take over factory floors. You know, you can see the videos of cars being assembled, and it's all the robot arms putting them together. But things like the Optimus robots, the humanoid robots, those are going to take over a lot of repetitive tasks. I'm going to show you something I used to do. Okay. I'm going to go show you something I used to do that AI will not be taking this job soon. Okay. Anytime soon. And these jobs, while some of you might look at a job like this and think, oh, that's cheap, anybody could do that, it's not going to cost a lot. These are the type of jobs, if you're an individual or you know someone, a nephew or a grandson that's looking for an industry to get into, it's going to be decades before AI takes over a job like this.
Called panicking because their drain was backing up. They said they don't use flushable wipes, but we'll see if that's true or not. Inside this yard box is a back water valve. I've got to pump the water out so I can get to it. These are designed to prevent backups, but they can also be the reason for backups. And that's exactly what happened here. After months of flushable wipes, this valve became somewhat of a choke point for those to build up and completely backed up the entire house here. I didn't know how bad it was yet, so I just took my screwdriver to get the flap out of the way and start poking at the clog to see what it was like. But after pulling out some wipes, it was clear how bad it was going to be. It started forcing its own way through, and in hindsight, I wish I used a bigger screwdriver or anything else here. It's pretty gross watching its back, but once I got it past this choke point of that back water valve, I was able to send my cable down and push that through. All of this will flow into the much larger city sewer drain. So satisfying once I got great flow going on this. Other than the bill this customer got, she was super relieved. I put the flap back down on the back water valve. This was an easy unclogged, but would have been a great one to have a jetter, and I wish I had one. These jobs can be pretty undesirable, but helping someone with a major issue like this is a great feeling. If your drains don't work, you can't flush your toilet, it impacts you immediately and you need it fixed as soon as possible. So I'm happy to be someone that gets to do that.
And that's going to be the future for human jobs. That is exactly what I used to do. People ask me why my immune system is so good. If you notice, this guy's not wearing rubber gloves. He's just wearing some gloves. Yeah,
he's wearing N95 gloves.
Yeah, it's not protecting him at all. And the equipment, his hand on that snake, in and out. Yep, exactly. So AI is not coming for those jobs, folks. When I think about all the things that AI would have to do, it'd have to be like waterproof hands, it'd have to identify the problem. Like, ain't gonna happen anytime soon. We got another ad, Ron?
Yeah, let's do it.
Rumble Premium.
It's the Rumble Premium. Let's see. You probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. Plus, Premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind-the-scenes drops, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble's offering a $10 off annual subscription. Just go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. Pew.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about some economics today in Rumble Premium and price.
Yes.
Okay, so AI. There are different AI companies, and these different AI companies seem to have different purposes. Elon Musk has advertised that Grok is supposed to be ultimately truth finding, wants to be a truth AI, right? It gets down to the truth. You've got Anthropic, which is one that is, or Palantir, which is focusing on being the interface between other AIs and all the weapons systems the United States has. You've got OpenAI, which has a government contract with the Pentagon. And I don't know, they were supposed to be a nonprofit started by Elon Musk, taken over by Sam Altman. Big scandal there. And then you have, I already mentioned Anthropic. So this gentleman, Bill Gurley right here, he did a whole bunch of research on Anthropic and what the creators of Anthropic have said. Now, if you remember, Anthropic is the one who did have a Pentagon contract, and the Pentagon kicked him out because they said, listen, you guys don't get to decide who we kill or don't kill with this AI. We get to decide that at the Department of War. Okay. So they canceled all the contracts with Anthropic. But then they kind of went back on that because Anthropic's pretty deep into the system, and now they have some limited contracts. I don't know, whatever. But let's hear a little bit about Anthropic, because on one hand, I want people to have hope. There will be a place for humans in the new world. Okay. And it's probably not going to be here in 5 years. We're going to there's an energy problem with bringing AI online, right? So the tsunami of AI taking everybody's jobs, that's going to go along a strict line with energy production.
Right.
Right. So, right now, if you want to use AI for certain things, it is cost prohibitive. I was looking at one guy who was creating what was he creating? It was something very, very cool. He was using AI to unlock something. I can't remember what it was, but he was showing how he did it. Mm-hmm. And he had to rent server space to run his Claude node in order to do it. And it was like $5,000.
Oh, geez.
His 3 days of server space so that it could run this program. And that's pretty cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Right now, that cost will go down as more server farms are built and energy is produced. Those costs will go down. But right now, it's cost prohibitive. So there's a lot of jobs that won't be taken, not because AI can't do the job, but because having AI do the job is more cost prohibitive than keeping the labor on board.
This would be the same type of decision as to whether or not you wanted to mine Bitcoin based on the energy cost in your area.
Yes. It's like, is it
worth the squeeze or not?
Yeah. And what I'm finding too, and we're going to talk about this in private in a couple minutes, what I'm finding too is a lot of people will set up Bitcoin miner servers farms, and then they'll rent out the space to AI, and depending on who's paying more, right? Because it's the same servers. Right. So depending on who's paying more, they'll rent it out to an AI company, and then they'll switch back over to Bitcoin mining, and they'll just go back and forth as they're just watching their cost line. Actually, that's pretty interesting. All right, so let's learn a little bit about Anthropic.
I've literally in the past 30 days read everything I can about Anthropic, and I've come up with a new theory. New breaking theory. The reason I call this the Dr. Frankenstein theory is the more I dig, I've met people who I dare say think it's their responsibility, and they're excited about building a species that's superior to humans. And I would just encourage people to read, as much as they can about Anthropic. Chris Olah worked on this thing called the Constitution. It's about 80 pages. It's hard to get through, but I would encourage you to read it. Amanda Askill, who is the chief philosopher, has started doing podcasts. I would encourage you to listen to them and listen to her language. And then Dario wrote this blog post called Machines of Loving Grace.
Loving Grace. Yeah,
yes.
I read it.
And it was based on a poem, and the poem is kind of weird. We should put a link to the poem. It's quite short, but the last stanza of the poem says, "I like to think of a cybernetic ecology where we are free of our labors and joined back to nature, return to our mammal brothers and sisters." I don't know what that means. Like we're going to go live in the fields where the mammals live. And then the kicker. And all watched over by machines of loving grace. Sounds like Overlord to me. And then in Dario's post, he says, near the end, and it's very long. You read it, Jamal. I mean, Machines of Loving Grace is very long, but he's talking about in the future, what are humans going to do? Because he believes in the massive abundance and UBI and that we won't have to work. I don't believe in any of those things, but he does. And then he says, it could be a capitalist economy of AI systems, which then give out resources to humans based on some secondary economy of what the AI systems think makes sense to reward in humans. So that's envisioning a deity of sorts that's going to break ties and decide what humans get.
It's a computational reward function for humans. It decides how much you're worth.
Yeah, so I don't think they think they're writing software. I think they're midwifing a deity here. And I don't know which one I'm more afraid of, the regulatory capture or the second theory I call the Dr. Frankenstein theory. It's more scary to me, I think, the second thing.
These are delusions of grandeur. Let's call it what it is. They believe that they are so intelligent. I know some of these folks, the Burning Man sort of offshoot of it, transhumanism. They believe that they're so powerful, these individuals, that they can create God. And that by creating God, they are like this Prometheus kind of species. It literally is the ultimate level of narcissism and delusion of grandeur to think you can create God. And that then the God you create, like you're saying, Bill, is going to be so benevolent and perfect that you constructed the perfect God that will give you your pellet, will give you your little Skinnerian, I
just would correct you. I didn't say it. Dario said it.
Right. But to your point of like just taking them at their word, they actually believe that they can create God and that they'll create a God so good that it's better than humanity's.
And the thing I want to point out, right? They think they can do that. But you know what those programmers have never done, Ron? And how do I know this? Because I've charged them $300 to come and do it. Unclog their backs. Okay. That's the thing.
I've literally in the past.
The thing that I want to enforce with you on that, right? There are all kinds of problems. The AI is going to be presented as the solution. But the thing it's not going to be able to do, the last thing it'll be able to do is unclog the drain. There's going to be a premium on simple jobs like that. The hard jobs, these truly labor intensive jobs like factory work, it's already been replaced by robots. I've even seen Elon Musk when he was building his recent data center. Did you see he had all of the dozers and skidsters and excavators on remote control? And there were guys in an air conditioned Connex running them, right? Even things like that could be replaced. But what's not going to be replaced is just good old grab a shovel and dig that thing up. That good old, just unclog that drain. Reach your hand on in there and pull it out. Use your intuition to know what it's clogged, right? It's going to be a fascinating thing. Now, one of the things that never ceases to amaze me is liberals when they show up to protest stuff. So in Washington State, there's a initiative floating around to essentially put the repealing of the millionaire's income tax on the ballot.
Okay.
It's being put out there by Brian Haywood. And so he's got people, he pays. You're being recorded. And get signatures. And this is one of the places where he was getting signatures. Now, this gentleman in the pink shirt is signing the initiative. Okay. This other person here, man, woman, I don't know, it's got some stubble facial hair here, but kind of presents as a woman, is in opposition to this.
Okay.
You're being recorded. You are harassing people signing. I'm asking you to leave. Sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax.
I'm asking you.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Washington GOP initiative.
Sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax. Will you get that on the ballot to repeal?
Do you get paid to do this? Is this your actual job, or do you have a real job?
Will you sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax? Get that on the ballot to repeal.
Working class people don't need
sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax.
Their fair share in taxes.
Will you sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax?
Problem on this planet. The reason that poverty.
Sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax.
You tend to call the cops.
Will you sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax?
I want you to know on camera. I think that you're
sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax.
I think that you are not only a fraud. I think you're a piece of shit.
Sign the 9.9% state income tax. You help get that on the ballot to repeal.
Working class people, millionaires should pay their fair share in taxes. Fuck this guy.
Sign the type.
Actual piece of shit.
Jesus loves you.
No,
sign to stop the state income tax. Get that on the ballot to repeal.
You, buddy. Jesus doesn't love you.
Sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax. Get that on the ballot to repeal.
Millionaires pay their fair share in taxes.
Sign to stop the 9.9% state income tax.
I can't be positive, but I think that person's a transgender. Can't be positive. Presents kind of like a woman, but has a little stubble facial hair. I don't know which direction they're heading. I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's local.
Yeah, it looks like Polsbo, doesn't it?
It sure does.
It really does. I don't think it is, though. That hill would go up more somewhere else. Anyways, isn't it funny, though, how it's always the same people that are outspoken? People just coming and going, guys sitting there signing the initiative. Nobody's giving a hoot and a holler, but there's always the one person. It's that one person that when they come up and do stuff like that, it amplifies them as if there's 10 of them behind it. There's not 10 people behind it. right? There's 10 people that would support it that won't come near the booth because that person's there causing a scene, right? But it's funny, even with that red hair, there was the woman behind it that had the red hair too. And I'm like, I don't think these people are the same. She's married to a real working class husband somewhere. Anyways, all right, guys, we're going to jump over into private, but not before I show you one other magical thing. This is Spencer Pratt, and he's running for mayor of LA. So this is a mayor's position. We've got tonight in the Republican Party in Kitsap County. If you're in Kitsap County, please come tonight to the Republican Party. It's over off of, I think, Auto Center Way or Kitsap Way. It's over by Red Apple in Bremerton. So you need to join us for that. It's at 6610 Kitsap Way, Suite 102, Bremerton, Washington. Okay. And we are going to be hearing from candidates tonight. So this is an important night. We're going to be hearing from Teresa Fox, who's running for the 6th Congressional District as a representative. Leon Lawson, who's also running for the 6th Congressional District as a representative. Kevin Tisdale for Kitsap County Commissioner, District 3. Phil Cook for Kitsap County Auditor. Rick Cuss for Kitsap County Sheriff. Lance Byrd for 23rd Legislative District, Representative Position 2. Gary Parker for the 26th Legislative District, Senator. David Olson for 26th Legislative Representative, Position 1. Katie Cornell, 26th Legislative District, Representative, Position 2. Drew McEwen for 35th Legislative District, Senator. Dan Griffey for 35th Legislative Representative, Position number 1. And David Stevens for Washington State Supreme Court. So they are all going to be at the meeting tonight, and we get to ask them questions. I plan on asking them a question specific to their position, right? So I'm not going to ask them, what do you think about the war in Iran? None of these people are going to be able to think about the war in Iran. What do you think about gas prices? A couple of these people might be able to vote to lower the tax percent in the future, right? I'm going to find something that is very specific to their office and ask them a real clear question. That's one of the things I really appreciate about Spencer Pratt down in LA. He's running for mayor of LA. Now, LA is a huge city. They have huge budget problems, all these kind of things, but he's keeping his campaign focus on things the mayor's office can actually fix.
Discussing that even testing your drugs on a dog is the least of the worst of what these demons are doing to these poor animals. They're lighting them on fire. They're raping these dogs. They're abusing them. They're breeding them to the point that they die because they've been so overbred. And it's not just animals on Skid Row. We have a LA City shelter system that is supposed to be a no-kill shelter that's killing thousands of dogs also because it's underfunded and it doesn't have the people that need to be running it.
The images are astonishing. What do you hear from moms? You know, I'm a mom. I hope to one day.
It sounds like a simple thing, but the mayor is in charge of the animal shelter. And what better way to reach across the aisle than to talk about pets and dogs? And that is something that is relevant to his office. How often do we have our politicians at local levels get caught up in big national narratives that they have nothing to do with? Gary points this out in Political Remodel quite a bit. Talks about things like the governor has nothing to do with taxes. That's all legislature. He just signs. So he could say, I'll veto any tax increases or I'll sign any tax increases, right? He could say one or the other, but he himself cannot raise or lower taxes. Why do we allow them to use that on their campaigns? It's a promise that can never be actually fulfilled, right? So I plan on finding out specific things that each one of those candidates in their representative districts, what they're going to represent, what they can do, something they can do. And I'm going to try to ask them a question.
Find out if they got their feet under them.
Yep. And I encourage everybody, attend your meetings. They're coming up. This summer is important. You've got primaries that are still happening all around the country. And of course we have the general coming up in November. And guys, I can feel it in the air. Stuff is happening on the election side of things. This election is not going to go normal, right? If we, the people, get involved, the PCO, precinct committee officers, and just ground pounders that can go out and become aware of these situations, share it within your spheres of influence, could make all the difference in the world. Who knows? Who knows, Ron? Maybe we'll unseat some of these 20-plus year incumbents with our new election system and the voter rolls being cleaned up and stuff like that. It could be a big deal. Your vote definitely is going to count this year.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump over to private. We're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin mining, and we're going to get an update on the Clarity Act. This is important stuff, and then we're going to end off with power.